The duckling was so hurt by these harsh comments that he went into a corner of the room and stayed there for the rest of the afternoon. Oh, how he longed to be out there now, splashing about in the clear waters of a little pond. He was so excited at the thought of being outside that he couldn't stop talking about it.
"What's come over you?" said the hen. "You talk utter nonsense. Lay eggs or purr, and such ridiculous ideas will soon disappear.
But you just don't know how lovely it is, being able to float in the water and diving down to the bottom of the lake and getting your head wet."
"You're mad," said the hen. "Ask the cat whether he likes swimming or diving down to the bottom of a lake. Better still, ask the old woman. Ask her if she'd like to float in water and get her head wet."
"You just don't understand me," said the duckling. "I'm going out into the wide world, whatever you say." He just about had enough of sitting on the nest with no eggs, so off he went. Summer was a lonely time for the ugly duckling. He swam in the water, he dived down and got his head wet, but the other ducklings didn't want to know him. Autumn came. The leaves fell from the trees, the wind howled, and the ugly duckling was still all alone in the world. Autumn turned into winter. What a cold, cold winter it was. The duckling settled himself in a village pond, but he had to keep swimming round and round in the cold water to stop it from freezing up. Every day, the pond seemed to be getting smaller and smaller. The duckling had to swim with all his might to prevent the last bit of water from turning to ice. But soon he was too tired to swim any more, so the ice closed in on him, and he was stuck fast. The next morning, a kind farmer broke the ice and freed the helpless duckling. He tucked the shivering creature under his arm and took him home to his wife. "There, there, little fellow," she said, and she sat him in front of their wonderful blazing fire. He was happy sitting by the fire, thawing out and thinking about things. But the farmer's children treated him like a new toy and chased him round the farmhouse. On one occasion, he flapped his wings so hard that he flew right into the milk pail. From there he flew into a big bowl of butter and then into a barrel of flour. What a sight he looked! The children laughed so much that they almost fell on top of one another trying to catch him. Luckily for the duckling, the door was open, so he got out of the house and found a hiding place under some bushes in the fresh snow. Once again, he was out on his own in the snow, unloved and unnoticed by anyone. For most of the winter he lay so still that there was hardly any life left in him by springtime. At last, the snowdrops appeared. Spring had arrived, so he spread his wings and went on his travels. As he flew high in the sky, everything beneath him looked so green and beautiful. He landed in a large garden where the apple trees were in blossom, and the crocuses created a carpet of purple and gold. In the middle of the garden was a large pond, and this was where the little duckling made his home. The little duckling was swimming happily along when he saw 4 elegant swans coming to meet him. They gently ruffled their feathers and floated lightly on the water. Soon the swans were very close to him. "They're so beautiful," he thought. "But alas, I know they'll peck me to death when they see how ugly I am. Still, it would be better to be killed by them than to be nipped by ducks, pecked by hens, or frightened to death by the farmer's children. As they glided even closer, he cried, "Kill me! Kill me!" and bent his head. But nothing happened. And just as the duckling was about to lift his head, he noticed his reflection in the water. And what did he see there? It certainly wasn't what he expected to see. It was his own reflection. But he was no longer an awkward, clumsy, grey bird. "That beautiful bird can't be me," he cried. The ugly duckling had turned into a lovely, elegant swan. It didn't matter any more that he'd been born in a humble place. What mattered now was that he'd been hatched from a swan's egg. In fact, he was almost happy that he'd suffered so much hardship, because it made him appreciate the beautiful garden that was all around him even more. The other swans swam in a circle around him. They craned their long, elegant necks and caressed him with their beaks. "Welcome, Your Highness." He was hailed as the king of the swans. Later that day, some children were playing out in the garden. They had brought bread with them to feed the swans. The youngest child shouted, "Look, there's a new one!" And when all the other children saw the beautiful new swan, they clapped their hands and ran to tell their parents. Lots of pieces of cake and bread were thrown into the water for the swans, and all agreed that the new swan was the most beautiful of them all.